Thank you, Dan. Welcome, everyone. 6 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m. It's Monday, July 1st, 2019, 55 degrees outside. Shane Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. And did you ever think we'd make it to month 7, Shane?
We did, and happy Canada Day, Thomas.
That's right. It is Canada Day. You're July 4th, I guess, sort of.
That's right.
Yeah, where the Queen kicked you loose or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. Yes, we will. Well, it's we're looking for a rainy 4th of July, Shane, in case you want to know.
Really?
Yes, we are.
Wow.
Well, it's supposed to be 80 degrees today, but we do have isolated thunderstorms. Not a big chance of thunderstorms, but they'll just pop up here and there around the area. And then on tomorrow, 76, 52, the overnight low again. Thunderstorms in the afternoon, and those are going to continue off and on till the 6th. And we're going to have about a 50% chance of rain on the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. Temperature's going to drop down on Wednesday, the 3rd, to 68, and then they'll go up to 70 on the 4th, and they will go up to 72 on the 5th, but we're going to have rain those 3 days, most of the day and evening. So I may put a little damper on your fireworks. I don't know. It kind of depends on where you are and what's happening in your particular part of the world. The weekend, next weekend, we're looking for 80 degrees, rain leaves for a moment anyway, but Monday, 75, and next Tuesday will be 77. And so we're going to have a rainy 4th, so just be prepared. Get ready for it. Yeah. Livingston right now is 56 degrees. Manhattan is 55. Three Forks is 54. And Gallatin Gateway is 53. Ennis is 51. Big Sky is 48. And at the airport in Belgrade, it's 54 degrees. And we're sitting right on 56 degrees here in downtown Bozeman on the first day of July. Pretty impressive. We're looking good. So we'll see how this week plays out with the with the rain and the fireworks. So
growing season's in full swing, so everybody's gardens are starting to sprout.
Yep, they are. Do you have any fireworks restrictions in Canada? Can you just?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Do you really? You can't blast off fireworks in Vancouver?
No, they only sell fireworks here for residents for New Year, Halloween.
Halloween.
That's right.
That's your explosion day.
No, we have fireworks tonight. I mean, they're all over the city.
Well, I mean, they're fireworks displays by controlled. It's not the individual person. So you don't have fireworks stands on every corner like we do here.
No.
Okay.
No, only the week before Halloween. Yeah.
Why Halloween? Why not New Year's or?
It's just a national tradition that people have chosen to celebrate Halloween with fireworks.
When it's freezing damn cold.
Well, not here. Yeah, in the rest of the country, but
it's October. Come on, see, it's almost.
Of course, it's the end of October. Yeah, it's snowing everywhere.
Well, I know. I don't know. That seems really dumb. Halloween.
And the amazing thing is, yours are restricted just to the 4th of July, right? But people fire off fireworks the whole week before Halloween.
Well, they're firing them off the whole week here too. The fires.
Do they? Oh, okay.
The stands have been open for probably a week at least, or close to a week.
Okay.
Anyway, I think it's a week before they sell, and then they've got restrictions on how late you can fire them on the various days. So I think you can fire them till midnight on the 4th, and I don't know.
Last time I bought fireworks for the girls was 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they were 16 and 17.
Yeah.
And they weren't interested after that. They had too much to do. They were graduating from college or high school. And...
I was going to say, you've seen one fireworks display, you've pretty well seen them all.
Yeah, well, I was pretty crazy about it.
Well, particularly in a big city like Vancouver, I bet they put on quite a show. It's probably a half-hour deal or so.
They last anywhere from 40 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, that's usually what we get here. And As I told you before, I think I remember the first year we were here. We got here in June of '93, and we went to the fairgrounds. They had the fair over the 4th of July, so we went out to go to the fair and watch the fireworks. And we're sitting on the hood of the car, freezing our butts off. Yeah. It was like 25 below or something. I don't know. Well, it wasn't that cold, but it was pretty darn cold for July. We thought anyway. And
pyrotechnics are a pretty amazing thing.
Oh, they are, yeah. Well, they do them to music now too, supposedly. So crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, we listen to the music over our radios.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think you can fake that. I don't think they. I don't know. What the Lone Ranger theme, you just fire off a bunch of fireworks and, oh, yeah, that works with the music, yeah. I don't think so.
Hey, we have a world-class competition every year, the last week of July and the first week of August.
World-class in what?
Fireworks. We have I think it's a $500,000.
It's like a contest, huh? You get teams that go out there, or businesses that go out there that make fireworks or sell fireworks, and they put on the show, huh? And then
they pick 4 cities from around the world. They all come, and in the harbor, and over 500,000 people gather around the harbor.
Well, I would bet, yeah.
4 nights.
Yeah.
Saturday night, 2 Wednesday nights, and 2 Saturday nights, 2 Wednesday nights. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty cool thing to watch.
Man, I bet the animals in your town are upset.
Well, especially the raccoons.
Well, I don't know, but well, the callers are up though, Shane. So let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you're on the air. What's up?
When is the big Shane celebration? I've been working mornings, so I'm not sure. Shane was supposed to come into town in July. Has that been set in stone?
Yeah, he's coming. When are you coming, Shane? To
the 25th or 26th.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah, 26th. Yeah, he'll be on the air with me Friday the 26th, and that evening we may have an extravaganza somewhere.
All right, and that's not set, but
well, it's set that he's coming. He's got a wedding, and he will be on the air.
No, a birthday.
Birthday. I'm sorry, a birthday. Yeah,
not mine.
Yeah, no, not his.
Okay. I'll put it in the book. So on the 26th on the air, and the party.
Maybe that evening. We're trying to find a venue that we can both afford. Because we don't want to put out a bunch of money if 2 people show up. Come on.
Well,
prizes and everything. Sitting there. We'll have cash prizes and. Cards for Walmart or wherever or stuff like that, or restaurants or stuff, we got to have some reason for you to come besides just us,
Yeah, well, I've never bought anything from Walmart, so.
Well, you can sell the card to you can give the card to a homeless person then. There you go.
Yeah, you can re-gift it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did win one, and I took it over there and walked up and down the aisles, and I found somebody that I knew, and she bought it from me cash on the barrelhead. So
well, there you are. See? Good deal. Yeah.
Did you charge your tax?
We're a tax-free state. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because I think their business plan is so unbalanced that I'm not going to put 1 ounce of my energy into it.
All right. Well, we've got plenty of time to make arrangements for this little get-together, and we will keep you posted, I'm sure, on when, where, how, what time, and all that.
Yeah, well, that's why I called early, because summer I work hard, and it's unfair for me to be listening to the radio if I'm being paid by somebody out in the field.
Well, that's true, yeah. All right.
Okay, 26th.
All right, mark it down. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
All right, that'll do it. Well, let's get to how we doing on time here. Oh, we got about 2 minutes before we got to do the Montana News and Agriculture, so we'll probably have a pretty abbreviated, short day in history today. So.
Oh, we will? Sure.
And we got Jennifer coming in at 8 o'clock, I believe. I haven't heard from her, but she was out on Friday, so she was going to come in today. So we'll see. And we got a lot of Supreme Court stuff to do. that
Cool.
that was came up this past week.
Yeah, well, we covered a lot of it last week.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we covered all the big ones.
Yeah. All right, 1863 Civil War. Battle of Gettysburg began on this date in 1863. Quite a big battle. People with their lawn chairs up on the hills watching.
This was probably the turning point for the Civil War, July 1st to the July 3rd, 1863. Yeah. 2 years after the war started. It was result of Lee's attitude of his success at Chancellorsville that he won in May of 63. It's important to talk about briefly with some specifics. He'd penetrated as far as Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Abraham Lincoln prodded his Major General Joseph Hooker to move the Army of the North, to intercept him.
Right.
And the thing is that Lee, and this was back in those ages with the type of military equipment they had, he picked this ground specifically. And the Union Cavalry Division under Brigadier General John Buford, basically with his 2 corps and of Union infantry, settled in waiting for Lee to arrive. I only say that this is important to talk about because of a couple of things that became very famous. The number of course, of casualties. It was 100. The Northern armies comprised 104,000 men, 75,000 for the South, which was consistent with everything. 23,000 casualties of the South, 28,000 for the Confederates. But the interesting thing is that before the battle began, that Lincoln replaced Hooker 2 days before with General Meade, because he was so dissatisfied with what Meade was doing. And a lot of people may not know that Lincoln was running the war from the White House because of the telegraph. Yeah. And so he was able to keep in touch and know exactly what was going on. And anyway, on the third day, after an attempt to attack the right of the Northern Army and being unsuccessful, that was Pickett's charge. 12,500 Confederates attacked the Union Center, and less than 100 came back. Cemetery Ridge became famous, and now the Gettysburg National Cemetery is there, and it's important because that's where Abraham Lincoln had his Gettysburg Address, and it was famous, 48 words.
All right. We've got to take care of the ranchers, farmers, truck drivers, and cab drivers, and anybody brings you food, booze, or clothing. We got to thank those folks, because what will we do without those 3 things?
That's right.
I don't know.
That's right.
All right, here's your Montana news and agriculture. 25 minutes after the hour, it's Monday, July 1st, 2019, 56 degrees outside. Shane Matobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tommy Galapter, morning mayor, in the house, and welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. That's a program that has over 1,000 downloads. Thank you very much of our shows. We passed the 1,000 mark. We appreciate that very much. Well,
on Canada Day, big celebration.
Yeah, on Canada Day. Well, it was yesterday, actually, but that's okay. Let's see. 1867, Canada became a self-governing domain of Great Britain, and there you are.
That's today, yeah, July 1st, 1867. This was the beginning of Confederation, and the provinces of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, and the British colonies, as they were called at the time, which broke up into Quebec and Ontario, formed the first confederation in, again, July 1st, 1867. And another 6 provinces were to join over the years to create a country of 10 provinces and 3 territories. So, we're pretty proud of the reality of what we were faced with. And the great thing about our history is that it was one like similar to yours, which was done by voting. And it wasn't that, it was a majority vote of the provinces as they voted to join. And then in March 28th, 1982, we basically transferred our constitution, from from Britain to the United States with the Canada Act, which is a constitutional act in Canada, but the Canada Act in the House in England, and they passed the act. The Queen assented, and after the royal assent on March 29th, 1982, we became an independent sovereign state on April 17th, 1982.
All right.
So that's a pretty cool thing.
All right. And you didn't have to fight the British for your independence.
No, we didn't. We just...
I guess they learned their lesson by battling with us, huh? They figured we're going to help you. We're going to help you. So,
crumpets.
Yeah, right. Well, in 1943, on this date, pay-as-you-go income tax withholding began, and they've been taking money out of your paycheck ever since. So,
yeah, interesting. A concept of a gentleman by the name of Birdsley Rummel, and he was a well-educated American from Dartmouth College, and he was involved with most of what both Herbert Hoover and Roosevelt were doing with regards to the ideas of the Federal Reserve being part of the process of collecting taxes. But the important thing is that pay-as-you-go at this point meant that whether it went from where you were sending in your taxes annually and paying them to where they started collecting them.
Right.
And it was his idea to come up with that
because people weren't paying them.
That's people were not paying, particularly the individual small employee, and so that's where they turned the heads on everybody in 1942, and after the Bretton Woods conference confirmed on a global basis what they were doing, the United States then continued to allow for the collection of people's taxes by their employer.
Well, in 1963, the U.S. Post Office introduced the 5-digit zip code.
Yeah, the whole concept here, of course, was its Zone Improvement Plan. That's what ZIP stands for, folks. Zone Improvement Plan.
All right.
And they sat around and said, gee, what a great word, zip. With new technology, the mail will zip along.
The mail will zip right there. 1984, the Motion Picture Association of America established the PG-13 rating, and as we all know, if you kiss a breast, it's R-rated. If you cut it off with a chainsaw, it's R. We'll be back with more right after the news at the bottom of the hour. We got Montana State News. Brady, some gal with the weather will be there too. So we'll be right back. 23 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 1st, 2019, 56 degrees outside. Shane Matobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Tom Eaglehop, your morning mayor in the house. And this is the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane, half man, half amazing, in Vancouver, British Columbia. So, well, you just heard on the news about Robo Calls, and everybody hates them. Everybody gets them. And the latest scam, of course, is they use local phone numbers to, or at least the appearance of local phone numbers. And you think, oh, that's a local person, so I'll answer the phone. And I can't believe that people deceive you right off the bat and then expect you to buy their crap.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing, isn't it? When I was in the securities business, we called it cold calling, because you spend all day cold calling looking for or seeking out new clients. But it's turned into a real mess nowadays. So it's changed a lot since then.
Yeah, I did my stint of telemarketing just for the experience of how it works and how to do it, and with the computer and everything, just to educate myself on various types of businesses and it's surprising.
30 years ago, I bet I knew 1,200 phone numbers, literally. And I don't know one today.
Yeah, I think it said...
I barely remember my own phone number.
Yeah, well, rule of thumb where we worked was 70 calls would produce a customer. So you just made call after call after call, and pretty soon you grab that one person that, would go for it, and there you are. So...
Right, it's like selling bird seed or vegetable seeds when I was a kid, door to door.
Yeah, well, theoretically, Greg Gianforte, I guess, has introduced an act to Congress to see if they can do something about this. But I wonder if they can, because so many of these come from overseas.
They do, yeah.
The phone company apparently is supposed to identify that it's someone not local using a local number. And if they have that ability, then they could certainly stop that. But whether they have that ability or not, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess obviously if you can spoof a number, then the phone company ought to be able to recognize that and stop that number from showing up on your phone, or making the call go through.
Yeah, and it only because it sort of matches. It's a segue to this is what happened over the weekend with Google. And, it's now clear that Google, was interfering with the 2016 election far more than the Russians were, and intend to do the same thing, and announced over the weekend that they were going to fight the re-election of your president. And so I'm wondering, how is that possible, when they're the largest search engine in the world and that they have a right to redirect you to where they want you to go and not to what you want to find out? That's a scary proposal.
Well, it's up to you. If you use Google, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So, there are other options. You can use Bing. You can use, other options. Do a search of search engines. There's a lot of them.
That's right. There are now.
Yeah, there's one DuckDuckGo, I think, or whatever, that doesn't track where you go, like Google does, of course. So the main thing, the main thing Google is doing is finding out what you're looking for. I don't think it's so much political, although I know they do have a political agenda and a pretty strong one at the top. But whether or not the rank and file follow that or not, who knows? But generally, all Google wants is your advertising dollar. And they, if you go look at shoes, you're going to see shoe ads. If you go look at chainsaws, you're going to see a chainsaw ad. If you look at a lawnmower, you're going to see a lawnmower ad. So, that's what they do.
Well, I think between Amazon, Facebook, and Google, it's 1984. I mean, it's Big Brother. It is, and you're locked in, and they know everything about you, and more than you probably know about yourself.
Yeah, well, that's certainly true, and we've given them that right voluntarily, by using their thing, signing up for Facebook and whatever. Yeah, we give them carte blanche over our lives. So we can blame Google, but I think you need to go look in the mirror if you want to find a blame. So
that's right.
All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 14 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 1st, 2019, 57 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And we were talking a little bit about Robo Calls and whatever, so we hope they're successful in getting those passed. It would certainly be nice to be able to know when your phone rings it's somebody you want to talk to.
That's right.
So... Well, not to be outdone with robocalls, the Gallatin County, they're going to spend $156.9 million of your taxpayer money next year. They're going to support 500 employees, 20 departments, 10 organizations outside, and it's only going to cost you $24.34 on a $300 piece of property. So there you are. So lucky you. And the population is growing at 10 people per day, Shane. 10 people per day coming to Bozeman.
Wow, I hope they all have cars when they drive there.
Well, I don't know. They come by plane, train, and automobile. So
that's right.
I don't know. They have scooters, bicycles, skis, and rollerblades. So...
And in-season snowmobiles.
And in-season snowmobiles as well. So recent raises for county employees and increased investment in the Gallatin Rest Home, which was losing money, are contributing to next year's budget challenges because we have to keep the county employees up on par with other counties in our state. And Missoula and Billings, and some of those folks have a little more money than we do, but I don't know.
Just a little.
Just a little. So... That's kind of tough. So, we have a 3% population growth each year. and got to provide goods and services for those folks.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
Just that easy. Just that easy, man. You got to do it, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, Yellowstone Forever, we talked a little bit about them. They're running a $2 million budget deficit. They're $4 million in debt over there. They're the folks at the nonprofit foundation that raises money for Yellowstone Park. They seem to not be raising very much money. They're $4 million in debt. So I guess we'll, I don't know, their financial hole is due to faulty revenue projection from 2016 when it farmed out its two parent organizations. The organization invested heavily in its staff, building, and technology, thinking plenty of money would flow in. But guess what? I guess it didn't. At least not yet. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and see if they can figure out a way to get some more dough coming in here, because they're in a big hole at well, they got a $2 million deficit and they're $4 million in debt. So they need a couple of bucks to turn that around. So
they should call the governor and ask him for the money he has left over in his campaign when he drops out.
Well, yeah, that I'm sure that'll be $4 or $5 million. So
yeah, that's right.
Probably not a problem. So.
Yeah.
Well, primaries are not needed for the area elections that are coming up in November. At least the 28 candidates, 11 races in Belgrade, Bozeman, Manhattan, Three Forks, West Yellowstone will face off in a general election November 4th or 5th, rather. Final number of candidates won't be determined for a few months because candidates could drop out and residents could register as write-in candidates. So, think anybody will write me in for any of these offices?
I do have an observation for this.
Okay.
My observation for this, which is very sad, is the lack of interest for people to run for public office, I think, has been predicated, big word, predicated, on what has happened to the Trump administration by the Liberal Party, the Democratic Party. And being unsuccessful at attacking his office with the Russian campaign and all these legal matters, it's forced everybody in his administration to have to hire lawyers, which they can't afford.
Right. Yeah.
Your previous representative was Secretary of Interior. I think one of the reasons he left was because
couldn't afford to fight it. Yeah.
I mean, he's going bankrupt, trying to maintain it, And I think a lot of people are just tired of the liability that they feel that they may be exposed with by liberal groups. If you don't do what liberal people do, that somebody will, fire a lawsuit at you, and the next thing you know, you're, having to hire a lawyer for $100,000 to defend you, and people don't have that kind of money to do it. So they just rather not take the risk and the liability. It's a liability to be in any kind of politics, local or national, now in your country. Very sad. Very sad.
Well, it is. I don't know if it's that critical in local elections. People really don't go out and, look up your high school yearbook in local elections, as to what you did in high school. But obviously, in national elections, everybody's looking at everything there. Yeah. So they're interviewing your neighbors and friends and everybody you went to school with, looking for any kind of dirt they can find on you, and that is the reason that people are reluctant to do it. And I agree. Well, I agree with you there. So
and this is another concern I have about. In the last block, my comment about Facebook and Amazon and Google, the more political they become involved without any restrictions by your government, then the more they're likely to move down the level from federal down to local. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So in 5 or 10 years, they may be providing all kinds of stuff to liberal candidates running against conservatives just for the purpose of defeating the conservative people at the local level.
Right. Well, I have a liberal friend on Facebook from my hometown that posts several times a day everything anti-Trump he can find, everything that's negative. Trump's nuts, Trump's this, Trump's that, Trump's done this, attacking the first lady. Why not? Yeah, anybody's fair game there. So, and he simply will not accept that the Russians didn't give Trump the election.
Well,
so.
Did you see what Jimmy Carter said? Like, that was just
yeah, I know. Well, Jimmy's old,
Yeah, but who? I mean, this thing coming, this thing coming, and it is coming, and it's going to make them look bad.
Yeah.
All the way from Mulder testifying to the FISA investigate, all of this stuff is not going to be good for the Democrats. They're pulling out all the stops to try and maintain, some kind of sense of it.
Yep. All right, we'll be right back right after these important words. Hang on. 3 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Monday, July 1st, 2019, 59 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And, we're getting down to the wire here, Shane. Got about 3 minutes to go before the top of the hour. We'll get to the 5 things you need to know and maybe a little more on the local stuff here.
Sure.
One other thing is going to be on the election. In addition to the electing local candidates, voters will be asked 2 countrywide ballot questions. One is whether voters would like to switch county elections from partisan to nonpartisan, making them similar to municipal elections. So if approved, there would be a single primary for the 10 county offices, 3 county commissioners, county attorney, clerk of the court, sheriff, treasurer, auditor, superintendent of schools, and the clerk and recorder. And the 2 candidates with the most votes in each race would advance to the general election. Now, the only problem with this is the way California does it, to where you have such an overwhelming Democrat plurality in San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego and some of these other places. You'll end up with 2 Democrats running against each other rather than the 2 parties running against each other. So I would encourage that we keep the partisan part just for that reason, that you don't have to where you have a whole bunch of one party come out of the woodwork and run and end up just by sheer numbers having 2 Democrats running against each other or 2 Republicans running against each other or whatever. I mean, it's good for both parties to, I think, keep the partisan. I think we should have a party choice if we want.
The whole concept of the primary election is to then provide for a competitive election.
Right, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I know, I'm just defining it.
No, I understand that, yeah. No.
Yeah, and again, one of the biggest problems that you have with all of this, of course, it's always a plurality vote. Mm-hmm. Not enough people go out and vote, and a lot of these decisions are based on less than 30% of the eligible voters.
Yeah.
So if one party gets its people out and the other doesn't, you end up with exactly what you said.
80-20 rule: 20% of the people make the rules for 80% of the rest. So
incredible.
Unless you get out there and do it, unless you reverse that to the 20-80 rule.
That's right.
Which were 80% make decisions for the other 20%. Then you're okay.
That's
all right, we got to go. We'll be back with 5 things you need to know and more local stuff right after this. Thank you, Dan. Welcome, everybody. 6 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It is Monday, July 1st, 2019, the downhill slide of 2019. We are on our way down.
Yeah, shorter days, longer nights.
Shorter days, it's winter is right around the corner.
Well, certainly where you live.
Snow up to our ears in just a matter of days. All right, let's see. Let's take a phone call, then we'll rock and roll with news and 5 things you need to know and all of that. Caller, thanks for calling the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
So let's talk about the Democratic presidential candidate, Ms. Harris. Kamala.
Yes, Kamala. Yeah.
Yeah. So she, I don't think she's ever actually come out and said that she was an African American, but all the things that she talks about, the issues that she wants to talk about. I wants to identify with Black Americans and anti-slavery issues. The only slavery issue that she can identify with is the fact that her family were Jamaican slave owners. Her family owned slaves. She was never
Exactly.
a slave herself.
Yeah, someone sent me an email this morning, and I sent them a letter by her father who confirmed that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she's going for the black vote, trying to identify with African American blacks, but she's not.
Well, she was born. She was born in Oakland, so I mean, if you're born here, you're an American. So
right. So she's an American, but to talk about slavery, and act as if she was part of the her family was part of the downtrodden, and maybe there were, she has ancestors that were slaves. Well, that's not the case at all. She had a father and an Indian mother, and her family in Jamaica apparently had owned slaves. So
yeah, it's a remarkable thing, isn't it?
Yeah, once again, we have a deceptive Democrat.
Well, that is not going to come up in the debates any more than they're going to ask Biden about the $1.5 billion that his son got from China. So, I mean, those things aren't going to come up in the debates with NBC running the show. They just aren't.
Well, and of course, you won't hear any news organization probably report that either.
No. Well, very, very rarely, or a snippet,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Her mom was Indian. Her dad was Jamaican. So born in America. Well, yeah, she's still an American.
She's an anchor baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and her mother divorced her husband and moved to Quebec, and that's where she went to school.
No reparations for her.
She's a result of Canadian education. What could I say?
So I hope she doesn't try to get reparations.
I don't know if that's a plus or not, Shane.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't try to get reparations. So there's like no reparations for her.
Nope, I don't think so. Yep.
But she'll probably talk about getting reparations.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, she's for it. She is for. She is absolutely for it. She's come out publicly that absolutely, she's for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about this, just so you know, her mother moved to Westmount, Quebec, and that Westmount is outside of Montreal. It's the most expensive place to live in Montreal, and she went to Westmount High School, which is one of the most recognized high school in Canada. Like, so it's patented, questionable,
Yeah.
But I guess they'll figure all this out,
Mm-hmm.
And did I hear that she went to an all-black college?
Howard University, baby. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently she's not really even black. She might be dark-skinned a little bit, but...
Well, I think I'm not sure how they technically identify Jamaicans or people from that area. Yeah, I mean they're probably more Hispanic, I would think, in that part of the world than they would be.
Yeah, with their ancestry. But the common reference is mulatto. Lighter skin.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. So, all right. Well.
So another deceptive Democrat. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprise.
There you are.
Okay.
Thanks for the call. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's something that we've covered before. We talked about it before, and as I said this morning, somebody sent me an email, and we sent them the letter from Dad. Her dad wrote a thing about their history, and did include that. Yeah, at one time the grandfather or the family had slaves in Jamaica, so. But that was prevalent at the time. So whether she's responsible for the sins of her grandfather or not, I don't know. That's entirely up to you, the voters. She didn't have anything to do with it. So, should it even be brought up? Should it even be pointed at her? Just because, if you wanna look at everybody's lineage back to the slave days. Washington and Jefferson, the founders of our republic, had slaves. So,
the big question is, she's in big favor of the reparations.
But that's fine. Why not? She didn't have anything to do with reparations. She didn't have anything to do with slavery.
But Yes, she did. Her grandparents did. But the
Well,
point
so
is,
what?
no. But the point is that when is someone going to ask her? So, Senator, you're in favor of reparations. Would that include the slaves that your grandparents had? Like,
No, they weren't They weren't American slaves, though. They were Jamaican.
Tom, it's the point.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. That's not the point.
Are you having an affair with? Are you having an affair with someone because you're married? You ask it just to have them say no. I mean, come on, Tom. This is politics.
But we're talking about American slaves in America. We're not talking about Jamaican slaves in Jamaica.
All right, Tom. You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, but I think you're saying it wrong.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and defend Kamala Harris of all people, man. She's the last person I want to see as president.
Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, I know that.
Well, just watching her, go after the people in Senate hearings, she will not accept any answer other than her own, and that means she is going to surround herself with a lot of yes people, and she's going to make a lot of bad decisions because no one will stand up and say, "Hey, you're stupid and wrong."
Well, the other great story this weekend is about that Minnesota Congresswoman. I am Omar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I am Omar.
Yeah,
and that apparently she married her brother. Wow.
Well, whatever it takes to be a citizen.
That's right.
Why not?
I love your country. I mean, every day there's more and more to talk about.
Listen, marriage in our country went right out the window a long time ago.
Yeah,
you can marry your dog. You can marry your, an evergreen, whatever you want. We're fine with that. So, well, let's see. From our text line, 478-8298, Jimmy Carter criticism bad. Trump mocking every other president good. He's a stable genius. Well, he's a genius. I'm not sure about how stable he is, but and the Jimmy Carter criticism is bad for Jimmy. It's not bad for Trump. Makes him a victim. And mocking every other president, well, he's doing what every other president hadn't done. So
that's true. Yeah.
What's the problem? Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Calling you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, boss.
Hey.
Along the lines of, is Kamala Harris black, or is she as being a Jamaican, she's black? But how do they classify black as far as abortion statistic goes?
True, sad, but true.
Now, in other words, if the mother is white and the father is black, and the aborted baby, is that considered a black abortion?
I don't know.
Hello. Good question.
I don't know. I would assume it is because one of the participants is African American. So, but either way, the baby's lost.
Yeah. Well, slavery is nothing but a form of abortion. You have control over another human being. You can kill them or do whatever you want to with them.
It's important because the abortion rate is 40% of the black babies are being aborted now. Are those from white mothers? That's a good question. These are questions that need answers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When you look at the abortion clock, it distinguishes between white and black abortions since Roe versus Wade. But the sad reality is that it's the Democratic Party that is in support of it. And again, we've talked about this endlessly. How do African Americans support a Democratic Party that's the party of slavery, the Civil War, Jim Crow laws, abortion, and on? I mean, subjugation with the Great Society. I mean, it's a very sad reality. That
Shane, you used the term mulatto. That's not used anymore. Those are black. Those kids are black.
I was just referencing lighter skinned African Americans. That was a term as a child that I knew.
Now. Those are light skinned blacks now. That's not. That's the mulatto is not used anymore, even though it was an accurate term. So was quadroon, and so was octoon.
Well, that's a part of free speech that you worry about is words you can't use, and people
But,
are,
see, Vinny can use them. Vinny uses any words he wants to use because Vinny has free speech. See, I use mulatto, quadroon, and octoon because that's accurate. It lets me know exactly what's going on. My ancestors were Vikings, and they were responsible for catching slaves. Do I get reparations?
I'm for you. I'm for you getting them. I'm for you getting them.
I think so. I think I should get a reparation check, please.
I think so.
Send my check.
Yep.
Send my check quickly.
There you go. All right. It's in the mail. It's in the mail. See you later, Vinny. Thanks for the call. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 22 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It's Monday, July 1st, 2019, 61 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And Shane is working on his holiday, July 4th equivalent of Canada Day. So it's only fair that I work on July 4th, our day here. So we will not be off on the 4th and 5th, as everybody else in this building will be. We'll be here, and we will sacrifice a 4-day weekend for you. So there you are. We'll be here, man. We will be here.
And we have a parade on the 4th.
Parade on the 4th. We'll be doing a parade on the 4th. Jennifer will be here. Harry Kirschenbaum will be here. And, Harry's coming in. Yeah, my old partner on Open Range Days, if you remember Harry. So we'll be doing that. So, no holiday for us. We will be here all week long and happy to be here with you. And otherwise, you'd just be subjected to some repeat of some show, and I mean that sucks. I hate that, man. I mean that's not good. From our text,
I want you to know I've gotten some inside information on at least 4 floats in the warehouses in Bozeman getting ready.
All right, there you go. Okay, good deal. From our text line, 478-8298, why in the world would it matter the percentage of babies aborted, what color they are? I'm no liberal, but that's about as stupid as any question I've ever heard. Well, the reason that it's important and what color they are is that Hispanics have passed blacks as the largest minority in the country. And the more black babies that are aborted, the less city commissioners they'll have, governors, police chiefs, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, whatever. And
that's right. And once the Mexican Americans start realizing this, they'll start complaining as a minority group of African Americans being overrated or overrepresented, rather. Yeah. Like on cable TV and on different, why aren't there more Mexican Americans on cable TV? Like, maybe Mr. Lemon's job could be in doubt.
I was going to say, why don't we get rid of him and let's bring in that guy from Univision, Jose, whatever his name is. We bring that guy in there. He should be working for them. From our text line, 478-8298, will reparation dollars be taxed? If so, the governor will make out like a bandit.
there you go.
So why not? Yeah, let's tax those things. Let's get that going. What a fun day we're having here, huh?
Well, it's just the overriding question becomes, how do you pay for it? I mean, it's incredible because the Democrats constantly are harassing the Republicans about how are you going to pay for this, right?
Yeah. In other news, we just heard that the president's payroll saved the American taxpayer $20 million in payroll costs for the White House. So that's a pretty good deal.
Yes, he has. He's reduced a number of positions in the White House. Not that they weren't of importance, but that they weren't as relevant because they basically were, doubling up on positions. So.
Well, I think there's always been overlaps of these things. We talk all the time about 126 poverty programs, and you got to tell me there's no overlap of these poverty programs? I mean, come on. You got to tell me you can't have 50 or 30 instead of 126 with the head guys making 6 figures at each one.
Well, and the amazing thing too is that it's not a legislature you have in Washington federally, and so congressmen get $1 million operating budget. That's $435 million, and then the senators get $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So that's $150 million. So
yeah,
it's a lot of money to run an office in Washington D.C.
That is some money. Amen to that. Well, the Symphony's received hundreds of applications for a new conductor. Our previous conductor left under somewhat, Matthew Savory resigned amid some misconduct allegations, and so now we've got a new Symphony position open. So hundreds of applications for a new conductor are in progress. So we'll. A little more than school superintendent, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait till they get down to 50.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll get them down to 50 and then we'll have a vote or something. I don't know. At any rate, the Symphony has considered candidates based on their training experiences and if they have comparative conducting experience. So, yeah, you have to have at least conducted a symphony orchestra to be eligible. I guess that probably. I guess that makes a little sense. I don't know. I don't want to tell stories out of school here.
No, you can't.
No, of course not. So, well, that'll be a pretty good deal though if we can get those folks in there, and yeah, we'll do that. So, in Belgrade news, of course, we've got. They're getting ready for the biggest week over there. They've got the, they finally got the parade route set up, but their Livingston Roundup is coming. So rodeo volunteers pumped about 5,000 gallons of water out of the Park County Fairgrounds, and they're ready to rock and roll over there. So they're ready to go. So that is always a big time. Yeah, it's always a big time over there. Event ranks 59th out of more than 700 professional Rodeo Cowboy Association events in purse size. And purses this week, entry fees and added money will total between $225,000 and $250,000. So they'll have some big prizes there for bull riders and calf ropers and everything else. And a $200 bonus will be awarded to any contestant wearing pink who has the high point ride or fastest time for the night in their event. So that'll be First Responders Night. So Tuesday's First Responders Night. So so there you go, and that will take care of. I think most of it. Well, we got a couple other local things over from Livingston that we're going to get to here in just a minute. So we'll do that, and then we'll get to the 5 things you need to know in the next half hour. And then I think Jennifer Bordy is supposed to be in at 8 o'clock, talk about Supreme Court decisions last week. Got some big ones. And we've also got one that the Supreme Court is going to review that concerns Montana, and we'll talk about that when we come back. So stay tuned. 24 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Monday, June 1st, 2019, 60 degrees outside, looking for a high of 80 degrees. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And, Shane, the Supreme Court is going to review the Montana School Choice Program, and that program is to help people decide if they want to send kids to private school or public school. And most of the religious schools most of the private schools in Montana are religious schools. So is that a separation of church and state? Again, that's what the courts are going to have to decide, I guess. That are we? Well,
it's interesting because, there's no reference in your Constitution about a separation of church and state.
No, there isn't. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
Number two, this is under the Commerce Clause been made clear since the 1800s that it's a state issue. It's not a federal issue. But with the advent of the cabinet position for education, under the executive branch, the federal government seems fit to interfere with the education of children. And I think if there was a cabinet position that needed to be eradicated, it would be the Department of Education. It's just a failure. It's just an absolute failure.
Yeah. Well, I think parents ought to be able to decide where to send their kids, even if they are not of that religious. I mean, they could be atheists for all I care, but they want the kid to go to a school where perhaps they feel for whatever reason they'll get a better education there than they will in a public school.
That's right. And you spend over 15% of your GDP on education in your country. And, but regrettably, people aren't being educated.
We don't have a lot to show for it. Yeah, that's the problem.
That's right.
Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Call you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Good morning, gentlemen. This is Jerry.
Jerry, how you doing?
Fine, sir. Thank you. Isn't it ironic that the Democrats accuse Trump of coddling to dictators?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I appreciate you calling and commenting.
I mean, I find it absolutely astounding how hypocritical these people are. They've been coddling to dictators from day one.
Well, yeah. Just look at the pictures of Obama bowing to everybody from, Mao Zedong to...
Right.
Well, the king of Saudi Arabia is number one and kissing his hand. And then, of course, on his apology tour in Egypt. And it's very sad. The contradiction is beyond belief. And I have to say this once again. I can't believe that off the mic comment your President Obama made to the president of Russia, saying, tell when I'm reelected, I'll be more flexible. Yeah, so flexible he let Putin go into Crimea and seize the country and did nothing about it. That's how relaxed Obama was about Putin. I mean, it's crazy. And
also, they coddled Iran with a whole pallet full of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in some cases it was their own money, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and Kennedy went over to the Soviet Union and tried to tell the premier of the Soviet Union, we'll take care of Reagan. Don't worry about him. He's not going to be a threat.
Never got in the news. What, isn't that amazing?
They coddled Castro. They coddled Venezuela. I mean, it's just incredible. And here he is. He just stepped over. I was stationed in Korea. I've been up in that area, and I find it amazing that he actually did that. And I think it's a good gesture of goodwill.
I think so too. Yeah. I'm not going to step in your lousy country.
Right.
Well, and I really believe that they stepped away from Venezuela when they finally woke up and realized the guy they were backing is a socialist.
Have a good 4th of July, gentlemen.
All right, we'll be here.
Okay.
All right, man. All right, see ya. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you're on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
This is Clint.
Hey, Clint.
How are you guys
sir?
this morning?
Well, we're here.
I'm a Canadian. It's our anniversary.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got to ask you two guys a real stupid question.
All right.
I hope I have a stupid answer.
Okay. Well, you ready for this now? Here it is. I'm changing telephone and internet companies, all right?
Okay.
And my wife's been on the computer, and she's looking at this 5G. I don't even know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
I don't run the computer at all, a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to know how dangerous it is or whatever, and where you could buy a frequency meter. Now,
what?
Radio Shack, I would imagine.
Radio Shack, I call them, and they don't sell.
They don't know what it is.
They don't know what the hell it is. And so, anyway, I want to know what this 5G deal is all over the. Is it on the broadband issue? Is it changed?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's a vast improvement over your current cell phone and computer, whatever. The problem is that Huawei owns about 4 or 5 of the patents to 5G.
Okay.
That's the issue. And whether or not they can configure your phone to listen to your conversations and, get into, anybody that uses a cell phone with 5G, whether it be a corporation or military or somebody like that, are they going to have the ability to listen in and, get information from you?
What I want to know, and I'll hang up, what is the 5Gs? That's what I want to know.
Okay.
And I'll hang up.
Shane will tell you that.
well, it stands for 5th generation.
Yeah.
And the purpose of it is to replace the towers that we now use across North America. And they're going to be posting 350,000 5G monitors on telephone poles and light poles across your country.
Yeah.
So it'll be running 24/7, and you have no need for cable or any kind of
power. You'll just take it out of the air like your cell phone does right now. You won't have a cable running into your home or anything like that. So it'll
the end of cable and the beginning of streaming live, and it'll change communications in the United States, as you pointed out.
Yeah. Well, streaming would be much faster. Whatever it takes you to download a movie to your phone will be about 10 times faster or 50 times faster or whatever. And your phone will have more capability than it's ever had before. And but as I say, Huawei pretty well controls this. This situation.
Potentially, they do. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's the downside, and
the access.
Yeah, so that's where the rub really comes in, to where everything will become
the Netflix model, where you'll pay somebody directly, like Netflix, or Disney, for content. So you the cable industry gone. And all the network, networks as we know them will be gone, because they'll be having to go streaming, because that's all people will do is make a monthly payment to see something or not.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 11 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, July 1st, 2019, 61 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. I think Jennifer Bordy is supposed to be in tonight. Or tonight. Well, she may come in tonight. I don't know. We won't be here, but she's supposed to come in at 8 o'clock to talk about Supreme Court stuff. So we'll find out if she remembers that or not. But she had court last Friday, so we talked about maybe her coming in today. So from our text line, 478-8298, we have freedom of religion and freedom from religion. Well, you do not have freedom from religion. I'm sorry. There are churches on most corners in every city in the country. If you drive by a church, you're going to be exposed to a religious building. So don't even go there. You don't have to go in. You don't have to look at the building. You just drive on by, but we're not going to cover them up with tarps like the statues in, Tennessee or somewhere. So there you go.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Well, good morning there, Tom and Shane.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. The whole thing about 5G isn't who controls the technology. The people who are against 5G because it's dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They can modulate that signal up and down, to the point where it'll fracture your DNA. And you only got to ask the military men about that. That those are the people to talk to, the guys that were involved in this technology early on for other reasons, less than lethal weapons is what it was. And Shane, didn't you just have a problem in a school up there with Wi-Fi?
Yeah, they definitely are having difficulty having it work properly, and also the effect it seems to have on other equipment, on other computer equipment, yeah.
Well, weren't there some sick kids?
Well, they don't know if that's specifically the cause, but they're investigating it, yes.
Well, you give them a message for me. It is.
Okay.
Probably.
That's the problem with this stuff. Like I said, you're not going to be able to escape it. I mean, they're going to cover the whole damn planet.
Well, that's right. Yeah, because it's the whole context of it is to end line of sight need. So, that's why they're putting these Wi-Fi posts or beacons on light poles and telephone poles across your country, so everyone will be covered by the frequency. Mm-hmm. And as you say, they can modulate it, but the bottom line is
you'll see a rise in vandalism when they start going up, I think. Wow, the people have been not too bright for a long time, but they're starting to smarten up. And then they're not. I mean, they take it's over. So you go Europe, they won't. It's not allowed in schools. You can't put Wi-Fi in a school, which makes perfect sense to me. You know.
Well, Pete, I'm sitting in a room fully surrounded by electronics, and
that doesn't mean it's good for you.
If the fire department ever came in here,
don't go there
and looked at this place, I'd be out on the street.
Well, at least you ain't over the carrying capacity. That you're in there by yourself.
That's true, I guess.
But the room that Tom's in, it makes him look like off the wall spider. Okay?
Yeah, right.
It's a web of cables and lines.
I was going to say, if you look behind the computers here, I think I took some pictures of it and posted it on Facebook one time. But
I'm well aware of the room. And,
you've been here, yeah. I know you've been here, yeah.
You need you need an upgrade, Tom.
Amen to that, yeah.
So tell them you'll forego that 25-cent raise for coming in on 4th of July.
Okay.
And help you out with the room. But yeah, it's not. This whole faster. Yeah, I mean, I don't need my computer to be any faster than it is right now. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't. I think the technology needs to be looked at, it's scrutinized, and come up with a decision that is actually about people and not about technology.
People 100 years from now will wonder how we live with the stuff we have.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? We didn't live. They killed us. That's what they're going to find out.
Oh, okay. There you go. Hey, I got to take a break, Pete. Thanks for the info. I got to go.
You bet.
All right, man. All right, thanks a lot. All right, we'll be right back. 3 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Monday, July 1st, 2019, 63 degrees outside. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Jane. From our text line regarding race and abortion that we were talking about earlier, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was a racist who wanted to eliminate the black race. That's a signed text. An unsigned text, we may start tarping churches. Well, maybe so. Let's hope not, but I guess whatever the democracy wants, huh?
Yeah,
we'll see.
Exactly. Particularly the minorities.
Yeah, there you are. So those were the days. All right. So we'll see what happens. As religion's always been an issue, and I don't want to go there today, but. It always will be. It always has been, and whatever. So, did you lose your phone again? Okay, you can say yes.
Yes, you have to turn it off so I can call you.
I did. So,
okay, I'll try again.
Call me back. Yeah,
I am. I'm dialing.
Dialing for dollars. Dialing for dollars.
Like a mad Canadian.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, let's see.
It's ringing.
Okay. Then it's answered. So there you are.
It's answered.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom. Hi.
Hi. How you doing, Shane? Shane has to be on the phone because somehow he can't hear the callers unless he's on the phone as well. So we've got him on the phone and we've got him on Skype both. So that's why he sometimes has to call back in. And
the righteous Eagle Man figured this all out and plugged me in so I can participate.
There we are. Yeah, we gotta have the boy on the thing here. So I don't know. Oh, well, we got about a minute and a half left here. A couple things you need to know, folks. You need to talk to our app this morning. You need to vote in our app this morning. What are the drop dead things you got to have in a romantic relationship? What are the drop dead things you got to have?
Absolutely.
In order for it to be a successful relationship. We got a bunch of choices for you over there, so go over there and take a vote on that. Also, don't forget our KMMS AM app on your smartphone. You can hear us anytime, anywhere. All of our shows are recorded. You'll be able to get them. Over 1,000 downloads of our show, and 25,000 people a month stream this station. So, wow. Holy mackerel. That's pretty impressive.
It's just the way that sounds, 1,000.
1,000 downloads. 1,000 downloads. I like it. Yeah. Actually, it's 1,003, but that's okay.
Yeah. So now we can say over 1,000.
Yeah, check it out. Also, don't forget our app chat. That's on a smartphone as well. Right next to the listen button, you'll see app chat. You can directly hit us with your call and never miss a minute of the show. Jennifer Bordy's in the house. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court decisions, including the Montana one that the court is going to consider. And we'll be right back with her right after this. Thank you, Dan. 6 minutes after the hour of 8 a.m. It is Monday, July 1st, 2019, 65 degrees outside. We're looking for a high of 80 degrees. Shaman Taubman on the line with me, and Jennifer Bordy in the house. Welcome to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Don't fall off. Hang on to the rails.
I sort of like driving in here on a Monday morning.
Yeah?
Yeah, I hardly ever have.
What do you want? You want to switch to Monday from Friday?
I don't know. We'll think about it. But I've done Friday for so long. Since
I know.
1995.
Yeah. Well, if you move to Monday, maybe we get the county commissioners back in on Friday.
Well, they used to be on before me on
Yeah,
Fridays.
I know. They come in at 8:30.
So,
you were in from 8 to 8:30, and they were on from 8:30 to 9. So.
I think it was the other way around. I was on.
No, they were
8:30.
always on before we left because, yeah, you were always on at 8.
I thought I always closed out the day because I used to say you get a rush after me.
Oh. Well, you got an errand after you now. That might have been back in the day when.
That was back in the day.
When we went till 10. We went to 10 o'clock.
We went to 10.
We used to go to
You're
10.
right. I'm sorry. I was 9 to 10.
Yeah, you're right.
They were 8:30 to 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're
so
right.
That's right. Yeah.
Forgot about
so there
that.
you are. Okay.
Forgot about the reason why I quit the first time.
All right, Supreme Court decisions, big ones.
What a week.
Yeah.
What a week. I'm almost glad I wasn't here on Friday. Yeah. I wouldn't have had enough time to digest everything.
I know, yeah. So what's going on?
Cow. Well, of course, I just want to say there were lots of decisions, and I'm sure we will not get to all of them. So I rank them in what I consider the order of importance. And so just have patience is what I'm trying to say. Well, I thought the biggest one, of course, was the census question.
Right.
And it was a surprise, to tell you the truth. And it was a bigger surprise, although he's done it before. But Chief Justice Roberts wrote both the two biggest opinions last week, by the way. But on this one, he aligned himself with the 4 liberal justices. So I was telling you off the air, and I got to say it now. I think the most interesting thing about this whole year with the U.S. Supreme Court, and, well, I'm going to say the high hopes that a lot of people had for two Trump appointees.
Right.
What is that? Is that a Freudian slip? I don't know.
Yeah, you're living in the past.
2 Trump appointees on the court, and I think some people have been a little bit disappointed. And by the way, I was reading about how Justice Gorsuch, one of those 2 Trump appointees, has really aligned himself with the liberal justices quite often. And in fact, he is the one that has the most unpredictable, I guess, votes. I mean, he voted conservative like maybe 70% of the time, but still 30% is a pretty wide margin not to necessarily vote that kind of line. But anyway, back to the census question. As you know, there was actually quite a bit of litigation in various lower courts to not have that question on the census. Are you a U.S. citizen? And I want to tell you the history of it, first of all, because it was way more interesting than I realized. We had talked earlier that it was on the census until 1950, but it was also on one form or another all the way up till 2000. So we were keeping track of who was a U.S. citizenship. Yeah, all the way up till 2000. That's a long time. And so when the Secretary of Commerce decided he wanted that question back on the census, he actually did quite a bit of research. I felt like he substantiated pretty well his reasons for wanting that question on the census, but ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, that's really not a good enough reason. It didn't sound like they were totally against having the question, but you just had to come up with a better reason. So it was.
What better reason would there be than proper representation in Congress? I can't think of a better reason than we count the citizens who are here legally so that we're represented and not skewed by everybody that walked across the Rio Grande and didn't drown.
I agree with you, and that's puzzling to me. And all I can figure is I don't think it's not logical to me, but there must be some hidden thing. I know it's not in the Constitution. I don't know where it'd be hidden, but I would assume always that our representation in Congress is based on the number of U.S. citizens that are anywhere and can vote. And apparently that's part of the point, is that no, for some reason, it's based even on illegal or legal immigrants that are here in the country.
But as I told you off the air, the long form of the census is nothing more than a menu of entitlements. And,
I can't remember everything that I filled out, because I filled it out.
Illegals aren't supposed to get entitlements either.
But they do. We already know that. They do.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really quite puzzling is because that, to me, it's just guesswork. How do they know that that non-U.S. citizens will not fill out and return the census if that question's on there?
Or mark it yes.
Isn't that mere speculation?
Or mark it yes.
And so does that seem like a good reason to keep it off?
Yeah.
Because of mere speculation? I just...
Well, why can't you mark no if you're here on a work visa, you're here on a student visa, you're here on a green card? You know, you're not a citizen, but you're... Why the fear of no? I'm not a U.S. citizen.
I just
but the dirty little secret, and this is a big dirty little secret, is over 2 million people have left California because of the taxes.
Yeah,
and the importance of the census is determining how many members of Congress a state gets.
Yeah, Illinois lost like 3 over the last 20 years, I think, something like that.
Yeah, but if you have the illegal immigrants in California filling out a census, they may not lose any. They may not lose any Congress.
Well, that's the whole point. And that's why I think the Supreme Court should have looked at that and said, come on, it's representation of our very republic. What's the deal?
Yeah.
And I will point out, too, though, while that is definitely the major thrust of the census, that is right in the Constitution. Sure. They do also use it. Of course, this wasn't in the Constitution to begin with, but they use it to determine how much federal funds the various states get. And they do want to collect demographic information to use for a variety of purposes, probably, like you said, the entitlements.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember reading it that way.
How many toilets do you have? Come on.
Why am I entitled to another toilet? Because I filled out that census form?
Sure you would be.
I want to be entitled to something, darn it.
I know.
But anyway,
so much for white privilege, huh?
And by the way, the U.S. Supreme Court in its decision, and they had a couple of decisions like this last week where they go along, and it's a long decision almost always. And you think it sounds like they're supporting one side, and then at the very end they say, but here, we're actually reversing. It's really kind of strange. And the enumeration clause in the Constitution does permit to inquire about citizenship on the census. But still, they went through it. It sounded like, oh, well, I mean, I knew the result before I was reading it, but it just a little mind-boggling. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
In light
it was
of
for me too. I thought it was a slam dunk no-brainer, but obviously not. So
here's what the Supreme Court said about the secretary weighing and balancing the pros and cons of the census question. That he weighed the value of obtaining more complete and accurate citizenship data against the uncertain risk, that's what I was saying, that reinstating a citizenship question, I can't say citizenship very well, can I, would result in a materially lower response rate, and explained why he thought the benefits of his approach outweighed the risk. The decision was reasonable and reasonably explained. This is what the lower courts found, particularly in the light of the long history of the citizenship question on the census. And yet, then at the very end, they say, but it really wasn't a good enough reason. So I know that President Trump has been looking at, can we delay printing the census next week, or actually this week now, to see if we can come up with a better reason. But think about how long that would take to make its way through the court. So my guess is the citizenship question is off the census for at least this decade.
Yeah.
So, but really interesting result in terms of who voted for what, and the rationale was. And I would say that is another interesting thing about the U.S. Supreme Court this whole term, that their rationales have sometimes been a surprise. I wasn't really, it's like really low on my importance scale, but a decision they came out with last week will illustrate that. There was a case out of, I think, Wisconsin or Michigan. It was out of Michigan, where a man was arrested for DUI and became unconscious by the time they got him to the police station for a breath test, so they took him to the hospital and drew blood without a warrant. And that's been a long standing rule, I think since the 60s, that because of the effervescent nature of blood alcohol content, that it's an emergency, and so you can do that without a warrant. And the U.S. Supreme Court spends the whole decision talking about them. Then at the very end, they say, but this guy never had a chance to show that. That's why they took the blood. So we're remanding. It's like, why? It's just, they've done some bizarre things. They've had some bizarre votes. And while I don't think it was a slam dunk ever, I still was surprised at the result of the census question.
Yeah.
So,
same here. Yeah. I was too. Yeah.
And the next one on gerrymandering. Remember, we talked about racial gerrymandering. Well, actually, we've talked about that a couple times. Yeah. And it's long been the rule. You cannot redraw voter districts based on race as a criteria, which even though it's called race, it's still a political criteria. The reason why you put certain people of a certain race into a district is because you know they're going to vote, or you assume they're going to vote a certain way. And one thing to say about gerrymandering in particular, because remember, this happens every 10 years, too, with the census. That's another reason for the census. Well, I don't know if it's a reason in the Constitution, but it is in the Constitution to redistrict or to figure out new districts. And let's face it, with computers now so sophisticated, they really can pinpoint voters like to the house. And so it has resulted over the years, especially since the advent of computers, in some really strange district shapes. We've had them here in Montana.
Oh, yeah.
We really have. And a little bit bizarre, but
goes down a road 40 miles to one house.
Like there's this big square, and then it comes down to a point, and then it goes back out like an hourglass.
Right.
There's some interestingly drawn districts. And yes, whatever political party happens to be in the majority, they're going to have control over how those districts are drawn. Right. And so really, even when it's been termed racial gerrymandering, it's always been political gerrymandering. But the U.S. Supreme Court has always, thus far, and still, I will add, held that that's, well, probably because politicians or political parties are not a protected class.
Right, yeah. As much as they think they are.
They've never held that political gerrymandering was a constitutional question. Now, I would say that in their case last week, they didn't exactly say that, but what they did say, and it was, again, an interesting result, if not an unanticipated result. I think, again, this was one, it could have gone either way. A lot of people, and myself included, thought they might have been ready to rule that you can't do political gerrymandering, but that, at least at this time right now, and that goes back and forth, just like our president's political party goes back and forth, but right now, in most cases, it would hurt Republican votes to say you can't do political gerrymandering. However, the two cases they consolidated before the U.S. Supreme Court for this, one was a district out of Maryland that favored Democrats. So, and then the other case was one, I can't even remember what state right now. Sorry, that favored
North Carolina.
Yep, thank you. That favored Republicans. So, so again, I mean, it obviously has the potential not only right now, but in the future to affect whatever party happens to be in control wherever. So, but they held, instead of just saying you can't do political gerrymandering at all, or you can, what they held was it doesn't belong in the federal courts. There are other remedies, and they can still take it to state courts, but it does not belong in the federal courts, say the way racial gerrymandering does. And so federal courts will not be allowed to decide those kinds of issues. And yes, it does affect other pending cases besides the ones that the U.S. Supreme Court decided. But yes, they will go away now. They'll be dismissed by those courts.
Yeah.
And so, again, really an interesting result. They could have taken this a lot of ways, and they chose the way that left it open for other courts to decide you can't do political gerrymandering, but not the federal courts.
Right. Yeah.
I have a question for you of your opinion. So don't you think it's really rational that the Supreme Court took, because they returned this back to the states? I read into it, it doesn't allow a federal judge to put an injunction now on any claims that a state makes about its districting.
Well, you're right that sometimes federal courts have been asked to enjoin that the districts that as they were drawn from being voted in that way. But I guess I'm not sure I understand your question, Shane.
Well, because they set a precedent. I can't see a federal judge doing an injunction against the state.
Oh, right. Right. The federal courts will not take up political gerrymandering at all now.
Yeah, exactly. So they block that process, which is important in the future decisions, because now the Trump administration understands that this is a possibility of stopping federal judges for doing injunctions. I think this is
not all injunctions in this area. Yeah, they. The thing is, they will not consider anything in the federal courts having to do with political gerrymandering.
Yeah.
Partisan gerrymandering, but they still could do injunctions and other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is, in the future, when the executive branch challenges something and goes to the Supreme Court for a decision, they will include in it a decision, preventing or providing for the fact that federal judges can't follow up with an injunction on something. I'm just saying that it has amazing potential to change this whole thing where federal judges are making decisions across the country.
I hate to tell you this, but I don't agree, because they have the absolute power to issue injunctions in many, many different kinds of cases, including cases where executive agencies have made some decisions. The federal courts do still have that power. The political gerrymandering, that has to do with states redrawing their districts. And so that's completely separate and apart from their injunction power as it relates to other things, including other federal executive agencies.
Yeah, the party has an opportunity to lock in political dominance for the next decade in as many as 22 states where it controls both the legislature and the governor's office. The decision will almost certainly force Democrats, who control 14 state houses, to reconsider their belated crusade against gerrymandered maps and begin drawing their own and eat or be eaten response to Republican success in gaming the redistricting process, gaming it.
Well, that's the funny thing about it, because it helps whichever political party is in power.
Well, that's what I say. Why
and there are some states where Democrats control, but
and I would think the Democrats would go for this, because when they're in power, they'll have this ability to do this. So what's the problem?
It might fall more under Democrats, and more likely to think everybody should be a protected class, like smokers or I don't know what else. But and so should parties, political parties. That's just a theory. But I actually, that was another puzzling aspect, is exactly why would anybody I don't think anybody's going to be on their face for it. They're not going to say, yes, I'm in favor of whatever party's in power being able to draw the districts whatever way they want. But that's what the gist of it.
I have not been watching our time. We have got to take a break. So we got to do this.
Because it's such a fascinating topic.
I know. We'll be right back. All right, not much time left here, Jennifer. We got about 40 seconds to go. Shane, you got a issue you want to do real quick?
No, just.
Oh, you're holding your hand up. I got.
No. Phone call.
Okay. Let's go to the phones. Caller, you on the air. What's going on?
Hey, you guys are talking about those judges, and I want to say that the very first judge that ever faced impeachment, the reason he faced it was for political hackery. And I think it's pretty obvious that these judges, almost all of them, Clarence Thomas is not the best judge on that Supreme Court, if you ask me. And but all of them do this. They get involved in political hackery. And I think the people need to stand up. We need to riot. We need to rally. You know, I mean, citizens' lives matter. These robed gods that sit up there in their court, they're violating the separation of powers clause when they do all this stuff. You know, I mean, obviously, if something was constitutional 50 years ago, it's still constitutional today. You know, so having a citizenship question on the census, how is that unconstitutional?
I agree. Hey.
Well, that wasn't the basis on which they threw it out. But
yeah, well, it should be there anyway. And I'm going to write mine in.
I agree.
I'm going to write my own question on the census. I'm physically going to write, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" with a yes box and a no box, and I'm going to check it. And that's what I'm going to do. And I encourage everybody listening to put that question handwrite it on your census form.
Well, I want to tell you another case. The whole
10 seconds, real quick.
Okay, so George Mason was the co-author of the Second Amendment, and at the Virginia Convention, and whenever they were ratifying the Bill of Rights,
gotta go. Welcome back to the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Jennifer Bordy in the house. It's Monday, June 1st, 2019, 68 degrees. Shane and Jennifer, tell me what is wrong with this paragraph. The Census Bureau itself has said that adding the question, are you a U.S. citizen, would lead more non-citizens and minority residents to avoid being counted. Minorities, why would they avoid being counted?
If they are a citizen, because we definitely have.
If they're a citizen, and why would they? Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know.
Anyway, because most of these people live in predominantly Democrat areas, the undercount would weaken Democratic representation in states with large numbers of non-citizens and skew the allotment of billions of federal dollars away from those areas. Isn't that the point?
What's wrong with that paragraph? About every word?
Say almost every word is wrong.
But again, isn't it speculation?
I don't want federal dollars to go to things with high non-citizens. Why should they get any benefits at all if they're non-citizens? Get out.
And is there a reason why non-citizens and minorities wouldn't answer that?
I don't know why
census at all if that question was on it?
I don't know why a minority citizen would have a problem with the census.
No, in fact, you should always be proud to answer that question.
Well, I would think so.
If you are a U.S. citizen. So I don't know.
And even if you could answer it no if you got a green card, you're a student visa, you're on a work permit, you're on anything. Just because you answer no doesn't mean ICE is going to come and pick you up.
Well, if you're here legally, they won't.
The contradiction about it is the section in there about your ethnicity. There's a huge section in the.
But it also always says you don't have to answer that one.
Yeah.
Well, no, but in both countries, our census has the same thing, and. They talk about your ethnicity and your, what languages you speak and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said in 2000, when I was on the air here then as well, I refused to fill out the full form census, except for there's two people living in our house, one male, one female. We're both over 21. They're both citizens. And that's all I was going to tell them. And they came to my house at least 5 times, threatening me with everything and under the sun.
And in my experience, which I've told you too, I did fill out the long form, and it was a pain it took like 10 or 12 hours to figure out everything they asked. I filled it out, and they came to my house claiming I hadn't and threatening me with all kinds of criminal prosecution. I'm like, get the heck out of my...
There's no criminal anything.
I'm not doing it again.
There's no criminal anything for not filling out the census, so don't let them BS you with that crap.
Oh, my God, it was... Anyway, all right, let's go back to...
I said, fine, take me away.
And they did, but now you're back.
Now I'm back. Yeah. No, they didn't take me away. They left, and I said, I'm not filling this thing out, guys. You got everything you need for my representation. And as I said, I'm going to write in on the census form when I get it. I'm going to write in, are you a U.S. citizen, with a yes box and a no box, and check it, because I don't want them to have any misunderstanding about my citizenship status. So there.
Okay, let's go on to another case they decided last week that I think should be of interest to everybody. Mm-hmm. And that was a case under the Freedom of Information Act. Now, this is something we've had since the 60s. Yep. It's gotten definitely a lot more play from like the 90s on. But because a lot of the things in the 60s were classified, and things like the Kennedy investigation were supposed to be held classified for 50 years and you could let them go. Yeah. But at any rate, I always thought, and I've read the Freedom of Information Act several times. We have our own in Montana. We don't have to use the FOIA, the federal one, because we have, first of all, constitutional right in our Constitution to know. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, you've told me you could go up to the courthouse and walk behind the counter and get any file you want.
Well, I haven't. Yeah, they won't let you do that. And actually, in this county, they're bad about letting people have court documents they're allowed to have. It's really bizarre. But regardless, I always understood FOIA to be you could request the information unless national security was an issue. It would have to be released. Well, I was wrong. I did not understand the Freedom of Information Act correctly. What happened is that an organization, or not an organization, a department, I guess, of the USA Today wanted information from the Department of Agriculture about all the retail stores that participate in the National Food Stamp Program, which is known as SNAP. And also they wanted to know the amounts that those stores had reclaimed or had been redeemed to them as a result of SNAP for a period of time, 2005 to 2010. And so the Freedom of Information Act, I guess it just never came up for me, so that's why I hadn't seen this particular aspect of it. But it shields from disclosure trade secrets and commercial or financial information obtained from a person and privileged or confidential. Now, first of all, I would have thought that, okay, yeah, you're not going to give them the names of the people that get the benefits, but why not the stores? That doesn't seem like personal, confidential information to me. Yeah. But regardless, the U.S.
Well, everybody who lives near the store would be guilty by association.
Probably, yep. So the U.S. Supreme Court, though, said that where commercial or financial information is both customarily and actually treated as private by its owner and provided to the government under an assurance of privacy, the information is confidential and you could not get it under the Freedom of Information Act. I don't understand that in this particular request. I think the public has a right to know. I mean,
why not?
I think we would have a right to know which stores even are dispensing, and some people would want to frequent those stores to help them in helping others that are under that particular federal program. So it's not necessarily like everybody's going to be out to do harm to these particular stores. Yeah. But also, just why not generically, especially how much are they redeeming by the fact that they help administer this federal food stamp program? I mean, there's a lot of things that I think that they were looking for an interesting article of great public interest, and they got shut down. Then the U.S. Supreme Court agreed that, I'm sorry, that kind of information is covered by FOIA. So what I think, in my view, the Supreme Court did with this case is, in essence, take or put more of a shroud around what the government is doing and all the people. And I would have to say, I don't think President Trump is one of them, but remember Obama, where transparency, let's have, clear plastic over everything that's going on. Well, we're not going to have it.
We got to take a quick break. From our text line, 4788298, I, too, will be doing a write-in when I get my census form. That's a signed text. We thank you very much for supporting that. And Jennifer and Shane and me and I, or us, we'll be right back. All right, 12 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Monday, July 1st, 2019, 69 degrees outside. Shane Matobin on the line. Tom Eagleoff in the house, and Jennifer Bordy, our law babe, is here. And
Sorry.
We're off.
That was my evil laugh.
We're off on more Supreme Court cases. So.
Well, let's see if we can get in one or two more.
Yeah.
There's a couple that are sort of related, and one of them is also related. We talked last week, or I guess it would be a little over a week ago now.
Yeah.
They already had a case in the last throes of June having to do with the Sex Offender Registration Act. Well, they decided another one last week. At first blush, it almost looks like the opposite of what they did the week before, but not really, because there's a lot of precedent that follows this one. And they had decided, and one of the biggest cases on this was a case that started right here in Gallatin County, ended up in Washington, though, was prosecuted there. And then there's another case out of New Jersey where the U.S. Supreme Court has held for at least since the 90s, I think, but not any earlier than that, that you have to, it's up to juries, not judges, to decide sentence enhancement factors. So, for example, use of a weapon. Like in Montana, we had it, and actually we still do, but it's not quite kosher the way it is. But if you used a weapon in the commission of offense where it's not necessarily an element to use a weapon as part of the offense, then that would be a sentence enhancement. And the only one that juries don't have to determine as opposed to judges is if you have a prior conviction. That can be a sentence enhancement, and it doesn't have to go to the jury. It'd be pretty prejudicial if it did, as a matter of fact. But so there was, under that Sex Offender Registration Act, the federal one, that if you had been convicted of a sex offense and you got out and then did something else, the judge could just string more time onto your sentence, like almost a whole new sentence. And the U.S. Supreme Court last week decided, nah, you can't do that. This is something that has to be decided by a jury. If there is...
It's another new case.
Pretty much, words, is what it is. In fact, I don't even see how it quite
Can
works.
you bring up past cases in that kind of case? I know in some cases you can't bring up their past...
Right, you're not supposed to be able to, but almost every judge lets it all in.
I was going to say, probably does.
And the courts let them let it in.
I guess,
But there's technically a rule, and we even have an unusual rule in Montana, our rules of evidence, that you can't even use evidence that someone's been convicted of a misdemeanor at least, but they still get around that all the time.
Still let it in, Well, if you say it, how's the jury going to ignore it,
Yes. Well, that is the point. So, in kind of a related case, too, though, where it also hinged on who decides what factors. Well, maybe not quite the same, but there was another case where the U.S. Supreme Court last week said that the definition of what is a violent crime in some cases is so ambiguous that it shouldn't be up to a judge to decide that. And so they struck that particular statute down as unconstitutional, because if you commit certain crimes with a firearm under federal law, then the judges could look at two different definitions, one being, is it an element of the offense? And by that, let me give you an example of what I mean. We have felony assault with a weapon, for example. Well, it's right there in the title, with a weapon.
Yeah.
So because you point a weapon, you don't necessarily even have to injure somebody, but if you cause them to be fearful because you pointed a gun at them and said, I'm going to shoot you or something like that, then that's a crime, obviously, whether or not you actually get injured. And it's right in the name and the elements of the crime. The state would have to prove you had a weapon and you used a weapon.
What about if I walk into the bank and I've got my hand in my pocket and I tell the teller I've got a gun, but I really don't?
That's an interesting question, actually. And the case that they decided actually was mostly robbery cases. And as we know, almost always people are armed in a robbery, meaning face-to-face, as opposed to burglary, which a lot of people do not understand the difference. Burglary is when they enter into a building, usually your home, sometimes a business, and hopefully you're not there.
You're not there, and they
right, and they
ransack
steal
the place
or
and take your stuff,
It can also be, though, if they break into your home and you are there and they proceed to rape you or something, that's another crime committed after your unlawful entry.
So you got two crimes there.
So yeah, true.
Right. We got to get the Rush update in here and a couple other things. So we'll be right back right after this. All right, you got 3 minutes to do the Montana school choice case.
Right. We talked a few weeks ago. I told you that the justices were considering on June 20th. They didn't actually hand down their decision about whether or not to decide it next term, starting October 1st. But they did decide in the meantime, so that means they considered it more than once. And I mentioned, I don't think I gave my prediction they'd hear it, but I did say that a lot of observers were expecting them to accept it, and they did. So next term, there will be a case from Montana decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. It's a case about whether or not it's religious discrimination not to allow a tax credit. Remember, that's not the same thing as giving money to, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
But whether it's religious discrimination to allow a tax credit for people sending their kids to a private school that's religious in nature.
Yeah.
So
about 90% of our private schools
in Montana, there are I think there's like maybe 3 in the whole state that aren't religious based.
Right. Yeah.
So at any rate, it's a huge percentage, and And again, the Montana Supreme Court did something hinky with it. The district court up in Kalispell agreed that it was a violation of the First Amendment, that it was discriminating against religion by not letting them have the tax credit. And because no federal funds were being provided for a religious purpose, it's just that you got to claim this whole $150 too.
But the courts have always come down on separation of church and state, even though it's not in the Constitution.
I mean, that's how they interpret the First Amendment. But at any rate, so then the Montana Supreme Court threw the whole thing out. So nobody could claim a tax credit, whether you sent your kids to a private religious school or just a private secular school. So that was really strange. So it's wide open what the U.S. Supreme Court might do with it. And the way they've been deciding cases on some strange bases this term, who knows? I'm not going to predict the outcome. I just predicted that they would take it, and they did.
All right. Shane and I would like to thank everybody out there. 1,005 downloads of our shows. Thank you so much. We can't tell you how grateful we are for that. Shane, say goodbye, man.
Goodbye, Mary. Have a great day, everyone. Be happy, be safe, and enjoy the holiday week.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Always a pleasure. Always informative. We appreciate you coming in, and we'll see you. We'll see you on the parade on Thursday.
Yes, you will.
We'll be here Thursday with our 4th of July parade. So we'll see everybody then. Till then, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.